Trigger Happy Take 2.
Yeah. All right, guys. Welcome to Trigger Happy Volume 2. Same as last time. I'm going to feed you guys a bunch of clips. You guys have no idea what's coming. Just want your honest reactions. This one gets a little heavier, a little deeper, but let's get some honest reactions out of this.
Interesting choice of words. Heavier and deeper.
Heavier and deeper. I also don't assume that we'll even all agree necessarily on some of these, which is cool. But yeah, we might learn a little bit about each other.
All right.
Oh, boy.
All right, here we go.
So it's a defiant but very joyous protest. There are people here who have been part of protests in New York City in the past. A lot of people who've been involved in immigration advocacy here in New York. Some familiar politicians. I spoke with Zoran Mamdani, one of the...
First of all, I don't like her tone. But National Guard D's nuts.
Dude,
I mean,
How can you not laugh at that?
you got to give credit where credit's due, man. No matter what side of the protest you're on,
yeah.
dude's funny.
You got to have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
If you're going to go there and get your ass
Guards.
kicked by the National Guard, you might as well have a sense of humor about it.
The National Guard will laugh at that and then kick your
And they
ass.
kick your ass.
All right.
Agree with you that Democrats cannot only be the party of resistance. We cannot, like, we resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy, like, we prosecuted him, convicted him of 34 felony counts, and guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we can resist right now.
Are you admitting that that the case against Trump in New York was part of the organized Democratic Party resistance?
It was a Democratic prosecutor, and at the time, I said I thought it was unwise. I went on Fox News and said
There were Democrats who said this at the time.
There were a lot.
Just to be clear, this wasn't. Just to be clear, everybody who now touts the 34 felonies, take it from Liz. This was not a real case. This was a plot to upend the presidential campaign, which backfired.
I just think it was a boneheaded move by Alvin Bragg, but it's not his first or last one. So.
This is why we invite Liz, because she's a plain-spoken New York Paul who can really tell it.
Thank God it wasn't The View.
Just, I don't know, just dumb.
Also, is convicted the right word? Do we get to say convicted? Because he wasn't, I mean, they brought charges up, but was he convicted?
I don't know.
Found guilty, I think, is the terminology they use.
You just have to let the Democrats talk, and they'll just do all of it for you. You don't even have to say anything.
Eat themselves. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people not real stoked with her.
There's some people that still believe her. But you know what's interesting is that Letitia James, she's one of the ones who went after him in Georgia, and now it's been turned back.
Never heard of him. Oh, my bad.
You're talking about LeBron, huh? LeBron's
That's what, yeah. LeBron's brother.
Big Mike's brother.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, hearing somebody on the other side basically fully admit on camera, on CNN of all places, like that it was a hit job. That's what she's saying. All right.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed, World Trade Center Building 7. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour, yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that this building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
If you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over, you need to have a break, Jesse.
This is a fact, my friend.
Two things. He said BBC way too many times in a row.
Like they're legitimate.
Hashtag BBC.
I mean, yeah. And then Pierce went, oh, the most respected. Dude, nobody respects anything in England. America.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much evidence that there's something behind that, you know, like we talked about on the last one, all the people going to the stock market and doing those put options.
Yep.
And then, you know, the second report that came out from the University of Alaska Fairbanks that basically said there's no possible way the thing could have fallen due to just burning. No possible way. So I don't know what the truth is exactly, but the more and more you dig into it, the more it seems like there was some foul play going on for sure.
Yeah, there's a coalition of airline pilots that have a whole committee where they basically try to debunk and say, like, we've been flying these airliners for 25 years. And we could not have done those moves, like those flights. But what's interesting to me about this is that Piers Morgan's only rebuttal was just how ridiculous Jesse Ventura is, which is not an argument. I mean, I could have made a better argument of, well, maybe that was just a green screen. It was a fake background. They were just using a background that they had pre-recorded, to green screen so that for context. But the building had fallen. They were just using a false back. Like, that's a way better argument. That's something I think most people would buy
than just talking about BBC and how well respected it is.
Well, I think Piers Morgan, I've seen a number of clips like this where he really just wants to believe the narrative, and then people put out some information and he just reverts back to like the standard narrative as that's the fact that you're trying to deviate from.
And you kind of have to, like, that's your safe zone in his job.
I don't mind that with Pierce. Like, where he comes from, and like he still believes that most of these journalists are telling the truth, or most of the institutions are still good. And from what I see, he's not necessarily, allied with one or the other political party. He kind of goes both ways, but he sticks to that standard mainstream narrative. So it doesn't surprise me that that's what he said here.
Well, also, it's hard to take anybody seriously post 1776 that speaks with a British accent.
Oh, we got more in British accents coming up. Don't you worry.
Good.
Yeah, just for you, buddy.
So, I'm interested to hear your take on this, Chris. I'll tell you mine. Do you dispute? We're not talking about how the buildings collapsed, how the towers collapsed. Do you dispute, or do you think that it's bullshit that the planes ever even hit the buildings?
There's those theories. I think something hit them. I think some of the most compelling theories are whether or not. So there were a lot of people live who said that those were not commercial airliners. And when you watch the videos, you won't find a video of them hitting where you see American Airlines logos on them. They look gray. There's like this little bubble underneath them. So I think one of the strongest theories is that they were basically drone planes, and that they swapped out the actual airliners that left.
What about the people who were on the flights?
Well, that's question two. So there's a history of war games that they were doing where they were replacing one plane midair with another one, where they were basically switching over the electronics to where they would fly close to each other. They'd swap over the systems that read the tracking systems. So it looked like it was the same plane, but they'd swap it out with another. What they did with those planes is anybody's guess. Whether that there were even passengers really on the planes is something that's in debate. If they just landed them at a base somewhere.
Is there any like loved ones of the people who are supposedly dead passengers?
There's those stories, yeah.
There's real stories?
There are those stories that exist. But I mean, when you have thousands of paid protesters going to things, people can be paid to say anything or do anything, So
the Pentagon strike, I look at that and go, dude, that was so low to the ground. I don't know that I believe that was an actual, like a 737. I don't, but I don't think it's disputable that planes hit the towers. Personally, now, did that bring it down?
Well, and some people said there was no plane; it was just an explosion. But depending on what side of the tower you're on, you will only see an explosion.
Yeah,
if you're on the back side, that's all you're going to see. If you're on the other side, I believe something did hit it. I don't believe it was the American Airlines. Watch the videos. There's no
they actually hit from different sides.
You will not see an American Airlines logoed plane hitting the building, no matter where you look.
Yeah, and if you're in charge, let's say you're in charge of that operation, and those buildings are built to withstand plane hits, and you want them to come down, like you're going to have to rig them with explosives.
Yeah.
And I heard a report too that there were people, I think it was like a week before those towers came down, that there were people coming in and out of the building in the middle of the night. Nobody knows what they were doing, but between working hours, between like 11 o'clock at night, I think, and like 5 a.m, people were in and out of that building. Vans were seen coming in and out of that building. So I don't know how long it would take to set explosives all through the Twin Towers. It's a lot of floors. I don't know how many explosives they would have had to plant to do that. But I think it's pretty clear that a plane is not going to bring that whole building straight down like that.
Especially where it hit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well,
maybe it would go over this way, but straight down on itself.
Yeah, maybe partially topple, but to go straight to its knees, top down.
Yeah.
They're the first 2 buildings in the world to ever fall from getting hit by a plane.
And the craziest thing is Building 7, because it wasn't even hit. It was just some debris that ended up in that building, caught like floors 12 and 13 on fire. And
we got
next thing the whole building's coming down.
Yeah.
That is a little.
We got more on that coming too.
Okay.
It's also another rabbit hole you can go down is Bush's brother-in-law owned one of the only companies in America, maybe in the world, that can produce thermite. And thermite can melt steel. And when you look at some of the pictures of Ground Zero after the fact, there are beams that are sliced in 45-degree angles. There's molten metal. Jet fuel can't burn. Jet fuel can't burn at a temperature that will melt steel to basically like lava.
Yep.
And that's what they saw there. And the steel that was left, it was immediately evacuated to China for, like, when do they not tape off a crime scene and investigate every inch? If it's a murder in your neighborhood, that they'll rope it off and they'll investigate till they're done.
Well, there hadn't been a serious war for 30 years.
Yeah.
They needed a serious war because the war machine was running dry.
Yeah.
And I think the world runs on wars.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of questions to be asked, and I don't think anybody can claim to know all the details, but these questions are things we should discuss. Like, these questions are things that should be asked, and that's where Piers Morgan, I think, went wrong on this clip. Was, all right, well, let's have this discussion. Let's dig deeper into this. It was an immediate full stop. You're loco. It was calling him crazy just to shut it down rather than having the discussion.
He comes from an era that trusts the institutions.
Yeah.
And we don't. We come from a different era.
Well, and we probably all did at some point, right? Sure. At some point in our youth. Yeah. Why would you want to? Our innocence is preyed on. We want to trust our institute. We want to trust our doctors. We want to trust the FDA. We want to trust our teachers, our government. Like, we want to. We desire to. And it's a rough transition mentally and emotionally to go from that place to, I can't trust any of you.
Yeah. Well, at that time, everybody was on board with going to war and getting these guys after that. Everybody.
Which probably was the point. Yeah. They needed unity.
Yeah, I'm sure some of those countries didn't need convincing, but like everybody, for once in my life, everybody was a friend of America. Everybody was like, yeah, dude, let's go.
Yeah, and nobody was immediately opposed to the war, except for, what was it, Bill Cooper and Alex Jones, who had predicted that this was going to happen, and they had said on camera months before this had happened that there's going to be an attack on the Twin Towers, and they're going to blame a guy named Osama bin Laden, who was a CIA asset. They said this months before it ever even happened, and they only knew this because I don't think it was divine intervention. I think they were paying attention. They were watching everything. But they predicted that the towers were going to be hit, and they predicted that there was going to be blamed on Osama bin Laden. So, it's a deep one.
And the owner of the Twin Towers, he had some inspections done on it. And I think the Twin Towers were, 30 years old or something by that time. And the technology of skyscrapers and inside the building was advancing so rapidly. They had asbestos in there, and they had all kinds of things that needed to upgrade. Their air conditioning units were not up to speed, whatever. And to revamp the entire Twin Towers was going to cost more than to rebuild them.
Yeah. So
this was becoming a problem too. Now, who knows? But like, all of this evidence is there right around the time of the planes hitting. So, I mean, if you're trying to coordinate something like this, it'd be nice to have the owner on board, immediately cashed out his insurance policy on that thing.
Well, yeah, that was Larry Silverstein, and he had purchased the lease to that building the year prior. Yeah. And when he took out the insurance policy, he took out an unconventional clause which protected him from terrorist attacks. He made a profit. Larry Silverstein made a profit on those buildings being destroyed. He made more money with them gone than he would have had they were there. And then that gets into, Building 7 and what was in the Building 7. They were financial records. They were CIA records. There was a lot in that building that was destroyed. So yeah, when you look at things holistically, you know, I'm not saying you assume truths that aren't there, but you got to ask the questions and kind of file them away. So.
But the entire Iranian regime is going to be history. The Iranian nuclear program is going to be destroyed. And anyone who gets in the way, it doesn't matter where they are, even if they are politicians in the West, they are going to fall. Because we cannot afford letting any Islamic entity, and I said this previously, and I mean what I say, and you need to take this very seriously.
Did you hear what he just said? He threatened politicians in the West that if they don't agree with Israel's war against Iran, that they're going to fall. And remember, he's an Israeli agent. Are you saying Israel will murder politicians in the West or get rid of them politically through bribery or whatever else? What do you mean the politicians in the West will fall if they don't agree to back Israel's war against Iran?
Yeah, we will not vote for them anymore.
Oh, no, well, you don't vote for them now. You're not in our country. What do you mean the politicians will fall?
We live in democracy, and we have the right to bring them up and to bring them down. Those who agree with Ayatollah, we don't want them in office. And all the sympathizers with terrorists like yourself, we don't want them even to be in our country.
You guys know who this guy is?
He's an Israeli agent of some type. I don't know his background, but he was apparently important enough to be.
His background, he grew up in Palestine, and his parents were a part of Hamas. He lived the hell of Hamas and under Hamas rule. He escaped late teens, if I remember correctly, and he was recruited. This is his story. Mm-hmm. But he was recruited by the Israeli IDF, I believe, or Mossad, and now is part of the Israeli intelligence apparatus, and wants to destroy Hamas. This guy's he's wild, but he's got an interesting story. And if you know his background, you're like, wow, this is pretty interesting. What Hamas had done to those people. For decades. So he's probably very angry at how he was treated and his family was treated, and the entire Palestinian population was treated by Hamas.
Well, and it's hard to judge somebody with that background for their hatred for Hamas. I don't know of an argument for Hamas, for a terrorist organization. But what do you guys think about his threats to politicians of the West?
Well, I think this is interesting that it's dated 10/21/2024. Were they launching new missiles and stuff at Iran in 10/21/24?
This wasn't on most people's radar at all, I don't think.
So I do know this. I know that they were going in, and they were Israeli intelligence was going in and infiltrating Iran, like right under their noses, and like setting things up to take out their air defenses. But this is like, I mean, from an ally that's that close, there's so much stuff right now about the Jewish people meddling in all of, American affairs, all this stuff. I don't know what I believe on that. But I do know this. You guys are flying F-35s over there. You're welcome. You guys have American-made military equipment. You're welcome. Maybe don't threaten.
Well, and I think that was Cenk's argument, and Cenk, we've seen him speak live at conservative events, and there were great debates. And, I don't agree with a lot of his positions, but I do respect the fact that he can make a logical argument and that he's sincere in what he says. But I think in this case, the argument he's making is, this dude made a direct threat against American politicians. And so to your point, Steve, you were talking about, the meddling. That's the argument that Cenk is saying there is like, you know, what do you mean you will take them out? Like, what does that mean? You're going to kill them? And he's saying, you know, we just won't vote for them. He's like, well, you can't vote for them. So what options are left for Israel to do to American politicians?
That guy's overspoke. That's a clear case of him going, oops.
That's him, though, dude. Like
I shouldn't have said that.
If you've listened to anything that guy said, that's how he talks.
Now he's trying to
and that doesn't mean he represents the full Israeli government.
Right.
But that's where he's coming from for sure.
Yeah.
Well, one thing about Israel is they don't play games. They're ruthless. When you attack them, or they're ruthless.
It's on.
Okay. Yeah. They don't play by the same. Well, we have to make this look good. We have to play politics. Israel just goes, cool. You guys want to play ball? All right. There's no rules anymore. And they just, I don't know, man.
I just wish your friends were as mature as you.
They are mature, actually. You just have to get to know them better.
Paging Dr. Faggot! Dr. Faggot!
I should go.
That's a good idea, Dr. Faggot.
Day in the life at Graybo.
Dude, it reminded me so much of like back in the day when things were less politically correct. You could say whatever you wanted to say. It reminds me of playing Xbox with you guys and like just gaming out and saying the gnarliest stuff, but just broing out and like no ill intent, you know.
Dude, the great thing about this, that's like women don't understand. That's how dudes talk to each other. Oh, Chris, you stupid fat son of a bitch. How are you? You know, like, but it's in a complimentary type.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, it's just bros being bros, you know, like you just say the most ridiculous things and nobody takes it personal. And
Hey, how's the herpes? We're going to do this again. You know, like just random stuff. Classic dude.
We went through like a decade where we couldn't say anything, you know. I think that started with Obama, right? Michelle Obama and all the bullying and all this crap. And
this movie was pre.
Yeah.
This movie was pre.
Same with The Office, who I can't remember his name in the Office, but he was in The Office too. What was that guy's name? I can't remember. But yeah, that was when you could.
This guy.
Yeah, he was Andy.
Andy, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I even watch like some of my favorite staple shows. Like my wife and I have a couple shows we like to watch, like when we're laying in bed and just chilling, something on TV. And Friends and Seinfeld are two of those shows, and they're just classics. Like there's not a bad episode. It's all hilarious. But even with those shows, as innocent and lighthearted as they all were, there's stuff on there where I'm like, I'm surprised they even let this on TV anymore. Yeah. And not so much now, but a few years ago.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, a lot of the Office episodes got banned. The diversity episode.
Dude, that one was so funny where they all had to take random cards of different races and put them on their head. And Stanley's just said black. he got the black one. And they went so stereotypical on all of them. But it was so funny, you know, and like I'm not offended if people make white jokes. Like, you know, I was in a band with my buddy, and he was half black, half Mexican, and he had the best white jokes, but it was all laughter. Like nobody was ever like cringing and like, oh, hey, that's offensive. You need to. It was just fun. It was just cool. You know, it doesn't mean we hate each other.
Yeah, sure.
Before I play this one, this was Bush Jr. sitting with a class. I believe it was like a second grade class. And they were doing this school thing where they were reading books to the school children. This was occurring while 9/11 was happening. So just before they started this, the first plane had hit. And you'll see him be notified on here that the second plane was hit. But pay attention to the details on this. This occurred literally while 9/11 was occurring.
Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steel. What word? Steel. Yes, steel. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kick. Yes, kicks. And 60 on page 153.
That's a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
using those words.
Well, and that's why I grabbed this clip. Like, doesn't prove anything. This is all anecdotal, but it's a weird coincidence, you know, and I think
it's a weird coincidence.
It's worth thinking about.
I've watched that video a couple times, looking at his face, trying to see if you can kind of see what his thoughts might be, whether he's surprised or whether it's like one of those things where he knew it was coming, or I'm not a, nonverbal expert, but
yeah,
I don't know if any of you guys have some thoughts about his face.
One of those.
I know we do have one of those, but he's not here today.
I do have a thought about that. There's another clip of this same session where he's sitting with these kids, and he appears to be very, very distracted. Whether or not he knew the first plane had hit or not when this clip was filmed, I don't know. But they're reading a book, and he's holding the book upside down. The book's not even right side up. His mind was completely somewhere else. So whether that was because the first plane hadn't hit, but his mind was just consumed with the days to come, or whether or not he knew the first plane hit, so that's why his mind was somewhere else, I don't know.
Or he's an absolute savant and can read upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, he reads
I think
like
that's probably the correct answer.
When you think Bush Jr., savant comes to mind.
He reads like a combination of like Hebrew and American, where it's basically upside down, backwards American English. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, interesting coincidence on the words.
I feel like when I saw this, I remember watching this live, and I felt like you see in his face, and it's like, okay, part of you goes, okay, get up and go, hey, sorry, we've had some things happen, I got to go. The other part of me goes, well, that's pretty good on his part. He's got a bunch of kids in front of him, like to keep his composure and kind of. But then again, who knows? Did he know it was going to happen? Did he not? Like if he didn't know it was going to happen, and this is all the coincidence stuff just happens to be conspiracy theory, then he did a fantastic job of like, okay, I have people that are working out scenarios for me right now. I'm going to be normal, be composed, be
such an innocent thing to be doing.
Yeah. Or is it all part of the plan?
Yeah, you don't know. And that because everybody's going to handle that situation a little different,
Well, you got the words steal, plane, must, kite, hit. So I think that alone boils down to how much you believe in coincidence, if you believe in coincidence at all.
Did a kite hit the towers too?
I think the key there is the word kite, because that's the only thing we don't know about. So once we find the kite,
were there people flying?
The
Was that a Ben Franklin reference? What is going on here? Did Ben Franklin know this was going to happen?
Rose him from the dead.
A kite is an unmanned flying thing, So
why would they? But it's just so weird. Why would they even? Okay, let's just say this was all planned. Why would they have a school teacher teaching kids those exact words? Are they just like laughing at us? Are they saying, "Here's a little clue, but you're not going to find it"? I don't know what really happens.
So the strongest theory on that is yes, that's what's happening. And if you, depending on how far down that rabbit hole you want to go, there is predictive programming that they use to prepare people for certain things, where they can say certain things, they can insinuate certain things, show us certain things on TV shows, through music, and it prepares our subconscious for things that are about to happen. You got to figure, if there's really a deep state and there's really these powers that be, they have all this technology in the world. Supposedly we're going to other planets, we're doing all these things. Psychology is something nobody ever talks about when it comes to media, when it comes to deep state psychology, psychological operations. That is the game. It's a battle over our minds and how we think. And so we are fed things. And when you look, so one of the theories too is that a lot of this drives back to the full-blown occult, that these people worship the same gods that prior generations did, that the Egyptians did, that every old civilizations did, these false gods and the occult and these demonic entities. And one of the principles of that is karmic retribution, meaning you're basically absolved of karma for what you do as long as you tell them first. And that's one of the theories, is that they're telling us what they're going to do in advance. That's why there's all those theories about The Simpsons and the movies, and like where they're basically telling you what's going to happen. There's countless things in The Simpsons where they predict what's going to happen. That's that theory, is that they're basically avoiding karmic retribution for the god or the cult that they serve by feeding us the information. And if you're not smart enough to notice the signs and the symbolism and figure it out, then that's on you. But that their religion absolves them of that retribution.
So how does this play into every 80s action movie where the Russians were the heels?
Where they wear
You
heels.
ever notice that? Every 80s action movie, the Russians are, first of all, they're like 6'5", 270, jacked. Those guys are paper tigers.
Wearing heels?
Russians, yeah, the Russians are pussies.
What
But
heels? like red sequin heels, like
yeah, but beside the point,
like Jessica Rabbit type heels.
Whatever. Hey, I mean, sometimes you just want to be.
Depends on their mood that day.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to be stylish, But the Russian dude, I watched Rambo and Rambo 2 yesterday. You're not going to not watch Rambo. Russians are the heels always.
Well, now after this, it's all Arabs are the bad guys,
Rocky.
right?
Yeah, well, even Rambo 3, the Arabs were the good guys.
Well, yeah,
the Russians were the.
Well, Rocky for sure was during the Cold War. I mean, we were at war with Russia, and they wanted every American to know that Russians were the bad guys. And now they want every American to know that the Middle Easterns are bad guys.
Rocky 4, legitimately, it's factual, ended the Cold War.
Rocky 3, they wanted everybody to know that black people were the bad guys.
Mr. T.
Mr. T.
I pity the fool.
Well, but most truth comes back to the Future, and the Libyans were definitely the bad guys.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know that. That is an actual historical fact that Rocky 4 ended the Cold War. The Russians saw that, and they were like, he just beat Ivan Drago. No. That's it. We surrender. We surrender.
I wonder if anybody's ever interviewed that teacher.
This teacher?
Yeah. Because she would have some answers. Did they feed her that information, or was she just going off a normal daily agenda?
She mysteriously died, I'm sure.
And
yeah, she's probably dead.
Well, and here's the thing. With social media today, there's very little that someone hasn't researched at some point. That'd be an interesting search because somebody has probably looked into her.
Yeah.
You look at some of these background actors to a lot of this stuff, and a lot comes to light. And, we're not spoon-fed the truth, so a lot of it's going to be theory. But again, like you backburn that.
I'm sure her car was getting worked on, and she ended up getting in a car accident and dying with 2 bullet holes in the back of her head.
I don't know. Are they bombing themselves? I don't know, but I would lean towards those things malfunction, but I mean, if you're a country that's sophisticated like Israel, you're probably not going to put the missiles in the line of sight of over the path of something that
in the middle of a city.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't think, knowing Iran and how they operate, if this was legitimately going on, they would be laughing and cheering. They wouldn't be like, oh, okay, you guys want to play? All right. Like, they wouldn't be engaging in that. They would just be laughing and going, you guys are idiots. Like, we knew you were, ha ha, funny. I don't feel like, I don't know. I feel like that'd probably be, my take would be malfunction.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, like with these types of things, so, and that's part of the reason I grabbed this is because this is circulating out there, and you got to take the stuff logically. Malfunctions do happen, errors do happen. So that could very well be what this is. At the same time, false flags happen too, and most of the power countries have not been afraid of pulling false flags that kill their own to blame it on someone else. So, what this is, I have no idea, clearly it's a thrown missile that came down on their own people. What would be interesting would be to see if Israel is talking about this at all, or if they're burying it, and if they are talking about it, what they're claiming it was.
The only other adversary of ours who's anywhere near as good as the Russians is China. So why should Russia have all the fun? And since Russia is clearly backing Republicans, why don't we ask China to back us?
I hereby tonight ask China.
That's right. And not only that, China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? I'm sure our media would richly reward you.
Why doesn't her hair move at all? It's just like a helmet.
Why doesn't his face move at all? Evil bitch. I don't know.
Well, they just say whatever they want now. They don't care. They're above the law, you know.
Wait, no, hold on a second. Hold on.
Clearly, the Russians are backing the Republicans. Wait a second, you just pulled a freaking hoax.
I thought Joe Biden said no one is above the law.
They are.
Was that a dementia thing?
Well, there's a point. Wasn't there a point where Trump had said something publicly that if Russia, hey, if you have anything on Hunter or if you have anything on Biden, let us know. Like, which is basic. Like, it was probably tongue in cheek, but I mean, is that not what our CIA does all the time? It's intel. You're collecting intel, so like, it's no secret that we collect data. But it was funny how crucified he was for saying that, and when she goes on and appeals to China for doing the same thing.
Like this, like, yeah. I mean, this is a flat out, like, blatant, hey, why don't we just appeal? Well, I'm pretty sure you guys already did.
What's interesting, too, is it's not like, hey, show us there's proof he was with, doing shady stuff with Epstein. It wasn't, it's like, hey, give us his tax returns, China. Like, what a weak,
that was code.
Dude.
You've seen those movies where
Tax
like they program people and,
for,
like, and they play a song and it like flips the switch and they're like the programming. That's what that was. They had some programmed. Show us his tax returns.
Yeah.
This is how I look. Mind you, this is a Google Earth car. Are they gonna find this on the internet?
Yes.
At my darkest hour, here comes the Google Earth car.
Are they gonna find this on my internet?
You know what I love about this clip? She's not claiming to be glamorous. She knows she's at her worst. She's basically in her underwear at the beach, all torn up, hair wet, looking probably at her worst, and she's panicking over this Google car.
Are you indicating that it gets better? I'm pretty sure she runs that 95% of the time.
But dude, what I love about this though is her sense of humor with it. If she was like ashamed, if she was like, she put this video out. She released this. Like, she knew it was funny. But the fact that the dude found it,
yeah,
and freeze framed her out there.
And let's talk about how advanced Google is. Normally, to fit that much body into one shot, you'd have to get an aerial view. Yeah, they got that from a street camera.
Wide angle.
In the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
I don't put much weight into this in particular simply because this was in 1995 and they already tried in 1993. So that kind of has been in my mind anyway. It already was identified
they tried
as a
with
target.
The World Trade Center in 93?
Mm-hmm. The first World Trade Center Bin Laden issue was 93. So this is 95. So, I mean, that's hey, man, they tried it once. Dude. If you guys don't wake up, they're going to do it again. That's how I take it. I could be wrong.
Taking the Pierce Morgan route? Sticking with the narrative?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could just insert some BBC comments in here, and I think it's...
I think when I look at him, I don't know about this video, and I think Steve's probably could
That's
be right.
What's his name, isn't it?
Netanyahu. Yeah. But from what I understand, he was the one who's put together this list of countries that we need to go to war with. And we've gone to war with all of them now that we're at war with Iran. So I think that came out in the early 90s. And all of it was in support of Israel's security or something. So I don't know. I mean, he's probably, all these guys seem to like war. It's the whole Israeli-Hamas issue is a hard one because, Israel has a right to defend themselves. But it does seem like they like to go to war as well. And it's been something that Netanyahu's been around for a long time. I think he's been 20 years as the prime, what they call the prime minister.
Prime minister, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you look at Israel's history since its inception, and I'm not talking about the 1943, go back to biblical days where they've literally just been, everybody tries to take them over. Everybody tries to attack them. They're a small country surrounded by water and people that hate them for whatever reason, religion, whatever it may be. Throughout their entire history, they've dealt with people trying to take them over.
Yeah.
Naturally, they're going to be a little bit pissed. And naturally, they're going to be like, bring it on, dude. Let's take the fight to them. Let's stop waiting. So on one hand, I feel like, they're a little bit justified in some of that. On the other hand, it's like, but we should just go to war. Like, there's ways to keep these people in check. And they do, dude, these guys know. People know. If you mess with Israel, they're coming at you. It's not like they're just going to let some attack happen and not respond to it.
Yeah.
And their military is very advanced. They've got nukes. They've got the technology. So, going in there, it's going to be a hard fight. You would literally have to get every Arab country over there to agree. We're all going to, and even then, that's not enough, because if it's just an absolute attack, just to, hey, screw these guys, we hate them because they don't believe the same religion as us, you're going to have Europe, you're going to have us, you're going to have, it's going to be a World War III. It's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a dynamic, broad conversation. And that's what I've been wrestling with the whole idea for weeks now, and thinking about, like, what the Bible says, where it talks about those who bless Israel, there will be blessings for those who bless Israel. The fact that Jesus himself was a Jew, but then reconciling that the Jews are God's chosen people. The Bible's not unclear about that. But then you reconcile that with the fact that Jesus also called the Jews of his time, what was it that he called them? A synagogue of Satan. The Jews are the ones who handed him over. Pilate handed him over to the Romans to be crucified. They betrayed him. So I think that's the question, especially for people who are Christians, that you have to ask is, when the Bible talks about God will bless those who bless the Jews, what does he mean by Jews? Was it the descendants of Abraham? Was it is it the current, like, government? Is it the government entity that we now know as Israel, because they just came back in the 40s, when they regrouped in Israel, or is it those who believe in Jesus, because Jesus bridged that gap between Jews and Gentiles. Jesus accepted Gentiles into the fold of Jews. So I haven't fully sorted through that one yet, but I think that's something that's a big topic, and I think something that most Christians especially will have to wrestle with. Is where does our allegiance lie? And I don't think God condones at any point from any government wrongdoing or evil or the sacrificing of innocent people. But God also was a militant God. He sent Samson, to kill people with a jawbone. He had David kill Goliath.
The order when they went into their land was to kill every living thing: men, women, children, animals, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to sort through, and I don't claim to have all the answers. I know you guys don't either, but I think those are things we should wrestle with and pray about and think about. I think that's probably one of the biggest, for me, that's one of the biggest, like, geopolitical things, topics that I think about.
The Bible that you don't believe?
I don't know of anything in there I don't believe. Bible says God made everything in 6 literal days.
Right.
That's the only way it works. God made plants and animals 1 day apart. Well, animals need plants to live. Plants need animals to pollinate them. If they evolve first, if the plants evolved millions of years before the animals, how did they get pollinated?
Mm-hmm.
Which evolved first, the male or the female? I ask atheists that all the time. You got to have this trillions of times over with your ladybug and your grasshopper and your camel and everything. If the male evolved 10 years before the female, or if he evolved 50 miles away, you got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he evolve all the equipment to make sperm and deliver it if there's no female? Why would the female evolve all the equipment to receive the sperm and grow a baby? I mean, it's complicated. There's a lot of biology involved in both of those, okay? Do you think it happened by chance? They have to say yes because they don't want God telling them what to do.
I like how he says equipment.
That's the
developed the equipment.
I like that. That's your takeaway.
Yeah, that is what it'll be referred to from this point forward. Equipment.
So, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. One of the things an argument I don't know that I had ever heard made prior to this clip. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. He made the argument that so the argument of evolution is that everything evolved over billions of years, whatever. His argument, which I think is very simple and very logical, is that if humankind, like mankind, evolved, who evolved first, the man or the woman? Because if either one evolved first, life doesn't continue to exist. So they had to have evolved at the exact same time, both been fertile at the exact same time, and they couldn't have even been 50 miles apart. They would have had to have evolved right next to each other at the exact same time in order for human reproduction to even be possible. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
He makes some good points for sure. I personally don't think evolution happened the way that it's being claimed to have happened. I don't know. I really don't know. I have some other theories about what I think happened or what could fit the narrative. And I think they probably align a little bit with what this guy's saying. It's hard to believe, though, that there's just so many questions on how we got to where we are today with the current scientific theories. So,
yeah, I don't believe in evolution at all from that type of standpoint. Like, I mean, I don't know if you call it evolution, but for instance, we live in Arizona, our blood's a little bit thinner. If we go to Canada, over time, your blood will thicken up because that's how you stay warm.
Adaptation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't call it evolution, but so I believe that the human body does those type of things, but I haven't seen a fish jump out of the water and grow legs my entire life. And don't you think you'd be seeing more? Don't you think you'd be seeing more monkeys at the zoo just turn into humans? Or at least, hey, we've had this monkey for 20 years and he's still the same. He hasn't evolved into a human.
Why do we even have monkeys?
You know,
if we came from monkeys and monkeys evolve into humans, why are monkeys even here?
Yeah,
because the argument is some stopped evolving, or we evolved from a certain type of monkey.
But I also believe so when you talk about the evolutionist big theory, the Big Bang, right? I'm sure there's others, but that's the flagship that I heard my entire life growing up. So what they're telling us is that, oh my God, if a meteor hits the Earth, everything is going to cease to exist.
Yeah.
But yet you're telling me 2 meteors collided and out of that came life? No.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Well, and even at its roots, and we've had this conversation before, to believe in evolution, you have to believe in certain miracles. And one of those miracles is that something can come from nothing.
Twice.
Multiple times, yeah.
Twice at least.
That life can come from non-life. That somehow cosmic whatever, a bunch of collisions of whatever, and that life can be formed from non-life. There's no scientific precedent that that's even possible. So you have to believe in a handful of miracles, and that takes more faith to me than what he said, believing the biblical timeline, that things had to have happened in a certain order. Even just what he said, like, even if you forget the evolution of man and woman and how that had to happen within proximity of each other at the exact same time. I don't know what the probability would be on that, but that seems impossible. But plants and animals too. Yeah. They have a symbiotic relationship. The chemistry that all works together doesn't work together on different timelines. It has to happen. And to me, the biblical explanation takes way less faith. It takes way less faith for me to believe that God did what the Bible says he did than to believe some of these scientific theories when science has lied to me 1,000 times. I've yet to have the Bible lie to me, even one time. Even one time. Like, I can't name anything else in life. Not a human, not a thing, not a theory. I can't think of anything that's never done me wrong. That's it. The Word of God is it.
You hate white men unless they're gay. You love black people unless they're conservative. You're for illegal immigration as long as they don't come into your home. You want to ban guns, but you want the government to still have theirs. You hate capitalism, but you expect these corporations to change their logo for Pride Month. You hated slavery, so you hate the party that was formed to abolish the slaves. You hated slavery, but you align with the party that was for keeping slaves. You don't recognize two genders unless you're talking about their hormones. You hate American values, but yet you want to still live here. You say black people can't be racist, but Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell, and Larry Elder are white supremacists. You want to ban guns to save children, but keep abortion to murder them.
It's amazing to me how Democrats even exist anymore. Like how anybody can believe them, because this is all basically true. How do you grow up thinking these things and like not feeling like that's the path to hell?
The public school system.
What's that?
The public school system.
Well, that's definitely a part of it.
I think a lot of the, you see a lot of the Democrat. I mean, it's funny because you can just spot them from a mile away. And I just wonder if sometimes they're like the outcasts, in the society. Like they've found this place that all the kind of outcasts go to be welcomed and needed. And that's where they live, and they expect everybody to just to want. They're trying to get everybody else to live the way they live, maybe to justify their own existence. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and for me personally, it's less of a party thing because I hate both parties and I hate politics in general. I identify more on the conservative side just because it aligns more with me. But I feel like both of them are just indoctrination tools to keep us divided and to keep us like, you have to pick a side. And, but I don't really have much to add to what he said. I think he said it perfectly. But to your point, Ryan, I think that's what the left does is I think that they prey on people's innocence and they prey on people's, like if you don't really have like a moral compass, if you don't really have like a biblical centered moral compass, which I think is the only moral compass that matters, then what do you align with? It's the easiest thing to do is align with the party who claims empathy all the time.
How do you, as a man or a woman, I can see it from both sides too. How are you for abortion? How are you for killing the most innocent people in our whole society? And like, not only for it, but they've gotten them to scream it at the top of their lungs and claim it's healthcare. If you're a man and your job is to make sure that the people around you are protected and the most innocent people around you are protected, how could you believe in that?
Yeah.
How could you believe that's okay? It makes no sense to me for the people who actually care about other people and care about their roles, I guess, in society and family and creating a strong culture, how you could think that abortion is a form of birth control. It's beyond me.
Well, the funny thing about that, too, is that they don't. So the argument is always, how could God be a loving God and still allow all the bad in the world to happen? And they don't understand free will. Like that's the cornerstone, free will. Like you don't want to force your son to love you, right? Like because then it's not.
Yeah,
love doesn't exist if unless there's.
Then it's like, okay, I'm forcing this on you. So free will, you have free will. Yeah. It's not okay. They don't buy the whole free will thing, but then they're allowed to abort kids and go, well, this is my free will. I'm allowed to have this. You can't tell. You don't believe it when we say this is why the bad. Like I don't know, man. They're just like.
You made a really good point, though, and I don't know if I've ever thought about it that way. That that's one of the criticisms of atheists, and how could a God allow bad things to happen? But you, as a human, are doing bad things. Like when you eliminate a human life, that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
it's not God doing it; you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So God gave you the free will to choose what you want.
Those are all, and it's that group of people that's saying, "How could God allow this to happen?"
Yeah.
Well, you're doing it yourself.
It's not God.
What are you talking about? You're doing it yourself. Like.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think there's an argument to be made, and there would be an immense amount of data, but somebody should take this on and go back as far as we can possibly go and trace every possible death and whether that is attributed to human error or not. And what I mean by that is people say, "Oh, well, this seven-year-old died of leukemia." Are these types of diseases, are they inflicted by man? Or are they something that just would naturally occur whether we were here or not?
Yeah.
Is it our fault that every death that happens premature, is that something that we've inflicted on ourselves over the years? And I bet there is an argument to be made that could be the case. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think you could but there's a lot of things that you could go back and say that are man created, but maybe hundreds of years ago, that affect us today and people die prematurely of, that people just assume it's just like natural causes or whatever, not natural, but naturally occurring.
Yeah. Doctors kill people all the time. How could God allow doctors to exist?
Yeah.
Like, how far do you want to take this? Like,
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Ryan, like biblically, people used to live 900 years.
Yeah.
You know, there was, with Adam and Eve, the intent was that they would live forever in a paradise. It wasn't until sin was introduced that disease was introduced. So whether those diseases, because as soon as sin was introduced, they were going to die. So it was now they were going to, whether it be that they were now going to age or a disease was going to be introduced or whatever, through their decisions and what they did and how they acted and what they ate. There's no question that there are now man-made diseases that kill people. I mean,
don't say it. We're going to get banned. Don't say. I know what you're thinking.
I won't even
know
say
what you're
it.
thinking. It
Doesn't even have to be man-made.
I know what you're thinking. It was Chinese.
It just has to be decisions that we've made, like the food that we eat, right?
Yeah.
Those cause diseases that we don't intentionally make.
Yeah.
But that are developed because our body is not ready to absorb those certain types of chemicals, right?
Yeah.
So that is not God's fault. That's our fault.
You don't think we're designed to ingest microplastics?
I ingest them all the time. Apparently, I hear there's like a couple ounces in my balls.
Dude, I saw a thing where they were saying, and this is a little bit of a sidebar. We'll get back to what you were saying. Dude, I saw a thing
on the topic of your balls. Let's go on a sidebar
Let's
here.
get
We'll
deep
get
on
back
that.
I saw a thing where they did autopsies of several elderly people who had passed away and looked at their brains, and there was enough microplastics in their brains to create like a whole plastic fork.
Yeah, they say that everybody at any one point in time has a credit card in their body.
Yeah,
credit card worth of plastic.
Yeah,
in their body.
my wife's been slowly like weaning us off of plastics. Like she's got like these silicone reusable Ziploc bags now, and like
Huge fan of silicone, by the way.
Yeah, we got like these like bamboo bowls, and like we've been getting off of plastics.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
But to your point, Ryan, like so yeah, you were talking about just mankind and like our decision making leading us to disease and things like that. I personally believe that like it's the sin nature of man. It's the sin being introduced into the world. That's what's led us down that path. Like that, I think that's what's kind of put us in that cycle. And I think the enemy, if we believe in God, we believe there's a Satan, and Satan's job is basically to kill, steal, and destroy. He wants to pervert everything that God did. So he's perverted gender, he's perverted sexuality, he's perverted our food. Everything now is GMO. You have to pay extra to get organic food. Like that's weird. That is weird. Like the fact that you can't just get something that a farmer grew and gave to you. You have to seek it out. We have to have vaccines, which are a bunch of artificial experimental stuff.
Let's just put a bunch of random chemicals that we made in the lab in our body and tell everybody that it's good and that they're going to be on them for the rest of their life.
Well, try to think of anything in your day-to-day life that hasn't been perverted in some way, even your relationships. We all have these influences of the outside world, all of us, and we bring those into our relationships. And that's why I think seeking God and seeking the truth is what helps us. That's what separates us, and we try to get away from those things to where we're not perverting our own relationships with the ways that we've been interfered with, and that word pervert, it's a hilarious word and it's got so many connotations, but literally everything in our life has been perverted. Our information, our entertainment, everything.
Yeah. Well, that's why divorce is so high. I mean, everything is perverted.
Yeah. And it's an active conscious effort to avoid the perversion. It's not like it's something that only what we deem as perverts get involved in. It's not just Herbert the pervert. It's everything is perverted, and it's an active conscious effort to avoid that perversion.
Herbert the pervert. I heard you like that.
Herbert the pervert.
Is this your vehicle?
Yeah.
Are you gay by chance?
Pardon?
Are you gay? This is actually gay parking only.
Oh, shit.
I don't know if you saw that sign.
No, I didn't see the sign.
Yeah, it's only for gay parking only.
I just pulled in. There was a whole bunch of extras.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to write this fine.
For what?
Because you're parked here and you're not gay. Or unless you tell me you're gay and I can let you go.
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay. So you just have to answer a few questions.
Kind of
all right.
in a hurry.
On a scale 1 through 10, how gay are you?
5.
5? Maybe like a 6, right?
6 is good.
6 is good. All right. Can you give me your best gay voice to prove that you're gay? Yeah.
I don't know. It's
like, hey, I'm gay.
Yes, I'm gay.
What's that?
Yes, I'm gay.
Okay, good. How many men have you slept with?
2 or 3.
2 or 3? Yeah. Okay. Are you a top or bottom?
Top.
A top?
Top.
All right. And last question. Do you spit or do you swallow?
Spit.
Spit?
Yeah.
All right, sir. That's pretty much everything. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Watch the signs.
Yeah, watch the signs, man.
Genius.
We should do that.
Brilliant. It's got 369,000 likes, and this was probably an older video. So,
yeah. Dude, I can't help but feel bad for that dude.
So brilliant.
Because he
got
preyed on that
wrapped
dude.
in.
But dude, it's so funny that he got him, dude, just to avoid a ticket. That shows you the power of influence and manipulation, man.
There's so much in this video,
dude.
I know. If he was thinking, he could have turned this on this youngster. Yeah, you got a pretty mouth.
Yeah.
You should get in the car.
Let me show you how gay I
Yeah,
am.
Get in the car.
Yeah,
Take your
I can
pants off,
save a
get in the car.
$250 ticket.
Yeah.
No
yeah,
problem.
what do you need?
No kings. Put your mask on. No kings. But you're fired for not getting the vaccine. No kings. But we're shutting down the parks and the beaches. No kings. But we don't accept your exemption here. No kings. But we're shutting your business down. No kings. But grandma's gonna have to die alone. No kings. We're shutting your church down. No kings. Here's a hotline so you can tell on your neighbor. No kings. But here's our list of mandates. No kings. You must stand in those circles. No kings. You must force your crying child to wear a mask. So who's really the tyrant?
Yeah, they live in opposite world, dude. They do one thing and then they come out and they say another. You know, like no kings. Like who's more of a king, Biden or Trump? Who's more of a dictator? I mean, who's the one who colluded with all the social media companies to shut free speech down? Who's the one who forced us to close our businesses and because of COVID? So it's crazy to me how people can come out and protest against somebody who's trying to be more free, who's trying to make sure that we can say what we want to say and preserve the, the First Amendment and Second Amendment and all the other amendments.
Pretty funny. These people are so dumb that there was actually a No Kings protest in London where they have an actual king.
And they have for how many hundreds of years, and they're down.
The place where they actually do have a king, like, yeah, no kings. Okay, you guys really thought this one out.
Yeah, and then they have these people who come out and protest. They're like 20 years old, and like, what like reasonable person is going to like look at that guy throwing a brick through a window and go, yeah, you know what? I think he's right.
Yeah,
you know, he makes
good point,
a good,
dude.
He makes a good point. Yeah. Like, okay, no, this is not the world I want to live in. Get the heck out of here.
Yeah,
this whole thing, the LA thing, and all this, that was a legit, actual, real insurrection. Firebombing cars, businesses, waving.
No, it was a peaceful protest, bro.
Waving flags of another country while you're firebombing
Allegedly.
cars.
Allegedly.
Like that's an actual insurrection. Just so we're clear on the definition.
Yeah. Well, the reason I like this video is like it brings up that dichotomy, right? Like you have to, both sides have to reconcile.
Say that word again.
Dichotomy.
Oh wow.
Wait.
It's a good word.
Dichotomy.
Yeah.
So this is why conversations need to happen. But here, and again, this is why I affiliate more towards the conservative side, is because conservatives will have these discussions like, well, let's talk about it. You know, like let's have an open, broad conversation. Even liberals that are in the middle, let's have an open, broad conversation. But when you get just slightly left of middle, it's shut down. It's screaming in your ear. It's bullhorns. It's throwing bricks at your cars. You know, you can't say we couldn't have an Antifa member on here to have this conversation. Like, let's talk about it. You know, and if we disagree,
well, because
that's great.
They don't even know what they're talking about. They're organized, and they probably most of them get paid. And again, that's what I'm talking about when you talk about people who just need acceptance. Like Antifa is the garbage people of the world. Like they're the people who are outcast and weirdos, and then they accept them and like, hey, we've got this thing we're gonna do. Yeah. We're gonna go like okay, I'll do whatever you want me to. Just hang out with me. Those are the type of people that end up there. I mean, you've seen pictures of them. You've seen them talk. I mean, they don't talk much. When they do,
they're not educated.
They're not smart. They're not educated. Most of them are on drugs.
Yeah, they're the Foot Clan and the Ninja Turtles. How many logical arguments did you hear the Foot Clan make?
Yeah,
I heard the Ninja Turtles make a lot. You know, their arguments for pizza.
No anchovies on pizza, dude.
Yeah, Michelangelo.
Yeah.
I've yet to hear
Who was the best
Clan,
Ninja Turtle, by the way?
and I've yet to see the Foot Clan sit down and debate a turtle. The Turtles would be down.
I'm a Donatello guy.
Well, you know, in physics, he was the smart one. Makes sense.
Well, it's all coming
I'm more of a Spicoli type Ninja Turtle guy, bro. Yeah, man.
Oh, that was
everybody liked Michelangelo though. You're just going along with everybody else.
Casey Jones.
Casey Jones, yeah, he was cool.
Yeah, Casey Jones is
I like that guy. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna break at Casey Jones because I got a pee-pee.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, guys. I feel like I just got rid of half of my methylene blue, so let's go.
I'm a mother of 4. I'm a Kansan. And 2 of my children are receiving gender affirming care.
A little bit of arithmetic. So, a while back, Disney executive mentioned on video, she said, well, I have 2 children, 5 and 7. One is trans and the other is pansexual. And I just thought mathematically right away, it's like the chance you have a trans kid is 1 in 3,000. That's not a very high chance. And let's say the chance that you have a pansexual kid is the same, whatever pansexual means. But whatever that is rarer than trans, because no one ever even heard about it until 5 years ago. So the joint probability that you have a trans kid and a pansexual kid is 1 in 9 million. The odds that you're a pathological narcissist sacrificing your own children to the glorification of your compassion is 8,999,999 to 1. So, like, do you have a trans kid and a pansexual kid, or are you a devouring mother?
This is what our society does to us. This is what we've come to. We're women and men who think like this perverted ideology. There's no way. 100 years ago, this didn't happen. You are putting this idea into their head through this programming that, for some reason, over the last 20 years, our society has decided. And it probably started before then. But this is why I think I find it hard that we don't destroy ourselves because of this type of action.
Well, there's an argument to be made that we are destroying ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you turn around from this, especially when there's so many powers forcing it. I mean, I think that I think people rebound when they see how bad it is, and I think we're doing that to some degree now, having some corrections in our society where people are like, this is ridiculous, but there's still enough people out there like this who are just destroying our civilization, our people. Like, can you imagine those kids? They've been destroyed by that mother. Like, whatever she wants to say, no matter how bad she wants us to feel for her or whatever with her blue hair.
Yeah, well, just look at her hair. Her kids. She absolutely did.
And in doing so is destroying our society because there's thousands, maybe millions of people out there like her doing the same exact thing.
Well, and how many celebrities these days have trans kids? Like
lots and lots of them.
Lots of them. Like a quick Google search, it's
Dwayne Wade's kid, Jamie Lee Curtis's kid, Rosie O'Donnell's kid. They're all freaking trans. I think even one of the Pitt's kids.
It's a modern marvel of science how Rosie O'Donnell even had kids. But they were bound to be. I think this. So if you look at, like, people like to talk about when they see these.
Marvel of science.
Did you see the thing I sent you guys? The Trump meme is fake, but he goes, if Iran doesn't surrender immediately, I'm going to drop Rosie O'Donnell on them.
I saw that.
Anyways.
Yeah, and I think one of the arguments to be made too is how much of this. So, like, I think mental illness happens. I think, and again, that's a result of a fallen nature. Like the foods we eat, like our environment. I think gives people like chemical deficits in some cases. Mental illness is a real thing, but how much of it is that? I was having a conversation with one of my brothers recently. How much of it is just legit chemical mental illness, and which is its own struggle, and how much of it is just sin? How much of it is just fallen nature and like demonic oppression?
People can be manipulated, and if you're in the wrong crowds, you'll be manipulated to end up like that woman.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's chemical imbalance. I just was listening to something last week. They have all these drugs for chemical imbalances, but has anybody ever explained how your chemicals are imbalanced? What is the balance deficiency? Nobody knows. It's just a fancy word to make people think that their depression is something chemical, and it's not.
Well, 100% of school shooters have been on SSRIs.
100%. Yep.
I feel like, so when we talk about like the protests and whatnot, we go, man, has there ever been a time in this country where we've been so divided? Yes, there has. The late 60s, early 70s was a great example of that. Lots of protests going on. Like that in and of itself is always going to happen. But when you talk about this type of stuff, and this is just my opinion to me, so there's division, there's right, left, we disagree, but this is when you have hard generations of people that go, I don't care necessarily about your feelings. I don't care if you're socially accepted. Here's what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. Now everybody gets a trophy. You don't keep scoring T-ball, and everybody's taught, well, everybody's equal. Well, that's bullshit. Dude, Alex Rodriguez before steroids, Barry Bonds before, they were phenomenal, gifted athletes. You're not the same. I'm sorry. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here. You'd be playing Major League Baseball. Bottom line. So not everybody's the same in that regard. Physical capabilities, we're all different. This literally stems from just, it's okay, little Johnny, that you're a terrible athlete. We're going to let you play with all the rest of the kids, and they're just going to have to accept it, and you're going to bring the level of play down so that you feel better about yourself. Don't care. Yeah. Hey, guess what, dude? Go do something else. You're probably really smart. Go crack a book. Go do something like, dude, make an iPhone. Invent something. Your sports are not for you, but it's forced down everybody's throat that, well, little Johnny gets to play just like everybody else. Well, I'm sorry. He's not good enough to play. Yeah. And now we have this, well, I'm not socially accepted because I'm not a good athlete. Well, find a circle that you are. They have chess clubs.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. And the fact that like social contagion is it's a very real thing. It's kind of its own social virus, you know, and, once media starts spewing these things, and then you see it on sitcoms, and then you see it in movies, and you hear it in music, and it becomes a mental, they call it a mind virus, right? Like it becomes a social contagion. And you look at what's happened to, I think homosexuality has its own roots, and I think that's a whole conversation. But I think like trans stuff, especially, you look at the social contagion and how that's influenced confused teens. You know, every teen is confused. Every teen doesn't know their place. Every teen doesn't know who they are. Every teen is trying to figure out.
If they don't have good role models and parents telling them what's right and wrong.
If they don't have a foundation and a bedrock and a compass, yes. But even though, like, I feel like I had those things, and not that it was all perfect, but I had them.
What are you trying to say, Chris?
But still, when I was like in junior high.
Are you saying that
I was so gay?
Are you saying that I feel like what I hear you saying is that when you said homosexuality has its roots, I feel like you were talking about the Catholic Church.
No, I'm saying like those puberty ages and stuff like that. You know, like you're just trying to figure out like where's my place? You know, like you start seeing circles, and you start seeing things, and you start seeing identities of, you know, this person's that, this person's that. And like you're just trying to figure out like who you are. And I don't think it's a coincidence that that's the age that they prey on, and that's the age, and even younger. I mean, dude, there's videos of kids, people saying that they figured out their kid was trans when they were 1.5, and they were just learning to speak, and you know, so like, I think it's a social contagion, and all you have to do, it's not even a deep dive, just do some quick searches. Like for anybody listening or watching, you do some quick searches on whether it's trans or whether it's other things. Watch the increase statistically of how those have happened as the media and our entertainment and everything has propagated it. Mm-hmm. It increases dramatically, and I think that's full-blown evidence for social contagion and how powerful it is. And I think that's something we all have to be mindful of. Like, none of us are above being influenced. We're all very easily influenced.
The biggest issue I have with Candace, to be honest, is that she claims to be a Christian. When Jesus said that you're supposed to turn the other cheek, where have you ever turned the other cheek? When Jesus said that the meek shall inherit the earth, if you are a Christian, then I am the second coming of Christ.
Here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. The fact that you would try to say, I am Jewish and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil, and what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical Zionism.
That guy's beard looks like he shaved his pubes and just glued it on there.
It looks like he's in an episode of Jackass. That's exactly what's going on.
That guy's been collecting pubes for years and just
for
That's the worst
years.
beard I've ever seen.
What does a pube collection look like?
That right on his face.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. What else can we say about this clip? You know, I mean,
just buzzing them off into a bowl, and
yeah, it's just like connecting them one by one. Oh, this one goes here.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on Candace's position of Christianity and Scripture, and her referring to a synagogue of Satan, and him basically attacking her? I have thoughts. What are your guys'?
I couldn't get my mind off of his pube beard. I'm so distracted. I don't even know what they said. Sorry. You just tell us your thoughts.
That's where it stopped and it started and ended for you.
Pube beard's crazy. It's wild.
All right, then we'll push past. We got more.
Okay.
On that
We'll just settle this one at pube beard.
I'm outside Victoria's Secret. The secret is that I just took a diarrhea in the dressing room because I ate too much orange chicken at the Panda Express.
Dude, I love this lady.
How
Her
does
face
this?
at the end, oh my god!
How does this lady only have 66,000 likes?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We need to get her on the podcast.
Yeah. Jar hole shorts. What is that at the bottom? Jar hole shorts.
Have you seen that? It reminds me of this other video where this big fat lady, she's like taping herself in the mirror. She goes, I just took a big fat shit on a small toilet. And I just wanted to remind you guys that you could do hard things.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that's so
This, to be honest with you, this lady looks like somebody that would take a diarrhea in a Victoria's Secret. I'm actually not
smoking a
surprised.
fucking Marlboro Red.
Yeah. Is this Vince Neil from Motley Crue?
Dude,
like, hold on a second. Who is this?
What I love about this lady is if you were to pass by her in a mall, you'd walk right past and not think there was anything going on. But had you stopped and talked to this lady, you'd probably figure out she's one of the funniest, wittiest. Like for her to stop and make a video, I was just in Victoria's Secret. Well, here's the secret. To admit that.
I feel like if you walk through the mall, you'd see this lady, whatever. And then you see people running out of Victoria's Secret going, oh my God, somebody just took a diarrhea in the dressing room. You'd be like, she went that way. She went this way.
That was me. This makes me want to talk to more strangers.
All right.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Does he have a cleft palate? What's
Good
going
question.
on?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, since HIPAA doesn't mean anything anymore, we can probably find his medical records. Here's my question to you guys. So, since 95, at least from what we see here, he's been ringing the alarm about how Iran's a threat to everybody.
30 years.
This feels to me kind of like the global warming threat that we've been hearing since the late 70s. Yet politicians are still buying beachfront property. So what are you guys' thoughts on that he's been ringing the alarm on this for 30 plus years?
it's just hard to tell if he's. I just don't. It's just so hard to understand what goes on behind the scenes. You know, like on one hand, you could say, like everybody always says, they're a small country surrounded by people who hate them, and Iran is the biggest threat in the region, and they're the most sophisticated and powerful threat in the region. So I could see how he could be concerned with that. On the other hand, is it propaganda just to keep the war machine going? I don't really know. I don't know enough about him. You know, if this was like an American president we looked at and saw every day, and we knew kind of what was behind the scenes in the institutions, like I'd probably have a better idea. But I don't know a lot about Israeli politics to even try to give my opinion on it.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. That's the question. And I think that's what we wrestle with is it propaganda or is it truth?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know any more than you.
The best way to get these things is to have a little bit of a both. If you want the propaganda to succeed, you want some truth in it.
Well, we've been being told for 30 years that they're 6 months away from nuclear weapons. So it's safe to say it wasn't true then. So either Israeli intelligence is not what we've been told it is, or it was propaganda, or he, there's that chance he sincerely believed that. But when I'm told something that long and it doesn't come to pass, I feel like I'm being told who I need to hate to a degree.
Yeah.
And that's something I wrestle with.
I wonder how much of it also could be propaganda from inside Iran themselves. Basically going, hey, you guys don't mention, hey, we're getting close. To kind of put that like, hey, don't mess with us.
Yeah.
Don't come. We're getting close.
That's a good point.
And Iran is a country that's unstable enough to,
and they want to be feared.
Possibly,
yeah,
use that. Now, I'm of the opinion that. So okay, you got Iran, China, and Russia that are kind of like the new axis of evil, if you want to call it that. Two of those countries have nukes. And if somebody attacks Iran, those countries are going to be their allies. So it was like, oh my God, nuclear war. I'm of the opinion that, look, man, those countries probably aren't going to use nuclear weapons, even if they have them, because they know that once they launch one, we're launching everything we have. And then nobody survives because they're going to launch, then everybody just dies. And the whole goal of being Vladimir Putin or whatever is power. Stay in power. Stay self-preservation, honestly, nobody is willing to annihilate everything, including themselves, just to prove a point. I don't feel.
Well, I think there are a few potential leaders who would be willing to do that. I really don't think Putin is that person, nor is Xi. I think Kim Jong-un would. If he was backed into a corner bad enough, he surely would. If he knew he was going to die, he surely would.
He'd go out in a blaze of glory.
He'd go out in a blaze of glory, 100%. Rocket Man, right? That's him. I think it would take a lot of probing for those other two to pull the nuke. And Russia was provoked a lot by Ukraine and the United States over the last couple of years. They were provoked a lot. They had a drone attack on the Capitol. So then they didn't do it. Yeah. And I think we've been told, especially since the end of the Cold War, they had to reinvent a bad guy.
Yeah.
And so once the Cold War ended, I think we thought that it was all going to be over and Russia was going to be our friend. And I think Russia wanted that too. But it turned out that the CIA didn't want that. They need an enemy. And Russia was a really good enemy for a long time. And so, but I don't think Russia wants to be our enemy. I also don't think China wants to be our enemy. I think China's got its own problems. They want to be economically stable. But Iran, on the other hand, Iran's a whole different story. I don't know what their motivation is. I don't know enough about the Middle East and like those types of countries to really understand. I've read enough about Russia to feel comfortable that I kind of have some idea, and I've listened to that. But I don't know enough about Iran to see if they were a real threat. I don't know if you have or not.
Well, Steve brought up a good point too, and that's that if Israeli intelligence is based on Iranian propaganda, of course, Iran wants to be seen as a formidable force. So they're going to flex. So if Iran has been saying for 30 years, we're on the verge, so watch out. and Israel is taking them at face value, then maybe it wasn't Israeli propaganda. Maybe they were just taking Iran at face value. That I don't know. What I do find interesting is who we're told to hate. You know, we talked about Russia. You know, like I remember when we were like, we're told to hate Iran, we're told to hate Russia. I have never seen where either, like Iran, you know, they do the chants death to America. They don't love us. They don't like us. And that's not cool, but I kind of understand why. We've meddled a lot. USA has meddled a lot in the Middle East. So I don't actually blame them for not loving us. I don't love the Sharia law and that they want to kill anybody who's not a Muslim. That's not cool. But at the same time, I don't think they pose an immediate threat. So part of me is like, let's just leave them alone.
So I heard this theory the other day, and I thought it was pretty smart from Jeff Sachs. And he said, actually, it was Jeff Sachs quoting somebody else, but the United States is threatened by other big powers because we are the superpower. And as long as we stay the superpower, everything flows to us. We get the money, we get the power. The only countries that are even that we talk about as like going to war with or being our enemies are the other powers that threaten our superpower position.
Yeah.
And what are those only other countries really is Russia, China for sure, and Iran in the Middle East. Like those are the only countries that even threaten our power at the moment. So we're told to hate them. So it is interesting to see. It's not like we're told to hate like North Korea. We haven't even heard about North Korea. They have nukes, but they don't threaten our power.
Yeah.
Right. So I think people behind the scenes, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, they're threatened by losing that number one status of the superpower of the world.
Yeah.
And they want the people to hate the others that threaten that.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think that, you know, whenever the media starts telling me who I'm supposed to hate, I immediately, my radar goes off. You know, like North Korea, obviously, you know, they're full-blown communists. We know all the negatives and all the downsides and all the bad things. And there's been defectors from North Korea. We know the tragedy. We know how bad that is. But we're not taught to hate North Koreans. We're taught to hate Russia. And I remember when that kept coming out, and I remember it was during the first time I remember that really being spewed on cycle was when Trump ran the first time. He was up against Hillary, and Hillary would not shut up about the Russians. And I remember watching that debate and telling my wife, I'm like, she's bringing up Russia a lot. I haven't heard much about Russia lately. She won't shut up about Russia. It's just that, and I feel like that was when with Hillary, that's when that cycle really started ramping up. And it was clear that was part of her planning and part of her talking points. And they were going to ramp up Russia because if he did win, they were going to use that as a tool against his entire campaign. When all that started happening, I started like looking up videos and watching videos of Vladimir Putin giving speeches. And I'm not saying he's not guilty of bad things. I'm sure he is. I've heard he's killed political opponents and things like that. But if you go watch any videos of him, just watch any interview he's done, he's very collected. He's very calm. I've never heard him say anything that was aggressive. I've heard him dig his heels in a little bit and defend Russia, which I would expect him to do. But I've never heard him say anything super outlandish or he just seems like a very logical person. Again, that's not me giving him credit or talking. I'm not talking positive or negatively against him. I would just encourage people, like when that thing comes up and they say hate this person, like do some research and figure out how you land on that, not just because the media tells you to.
Yeah.
Yourself, you are an immigrant. You're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you say that the immigrant. I'm so proud and happy that I was embraced by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Yeah. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world and this is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was with the rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech there. They asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great, great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal. And those people that are doing illegal things in America and they're the foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can. Keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better place.
Goldberg looked like she needed to take a shit in Victoria's Secret, that whole clip.
That was actually, so I'm trying to think of like how I'm going to comment after this was over. And that was the first thing that came to mind was, you know, she pooped at least once.
Yeah, at least.
You know, like Sunny Hostin, she reaches over and grabs like, oh, you poor thing. Oh, that's, you know,
she wanted to stop
such nice things, but you're wrong. Poor
yeah,
thing. Like,
she's probably touching him going, that doesn't fit the narrative. Can you please shut up?
Yeah.
We thought you were going to agree with us.
And it was when he was talking about like, when you're a guest, you keep things clean. Yeah. And that's when she reaches over and grabs his arm, like tries to stop and interrupt him. Yeah. I remember seeing, I don't know if you guys remember a while back. I don't even remember what it was, what his position was. But I remember seeing something with Schwarzenegger when he was a governor. And I remember him saying something. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, what happened to you? But, dude, this fully redeemed him in my eyes. Like, I love his position on this.
Yeah. Well, and he kind of went super left on the vid also during the masking and the.
Oh, yeah.
He went super left on that.
He did.
But. Again, I mean, hey, dude.
But he fell for the propaganda, is what I think now.
Yeah, this is somebody that you want to talk about. He did come here for the opportunity, because that's the whole thing. None of them come here to commit crimes. None of them come here to traffic drugs. And no, it's all for opportunity. They're coming, you know, they're looking for a better life. Cool, we're all on board with that. Give something back. Be a good citizen, and we'll all embrace you.
Well, and we have to recognize that there are bad actors, there are bad players, and I think that's what he's addressing. And I love that he didn't get looped into their propaganda. Dude, the fact that the View audience applauded when he said America is the greatest country in the world. What I love about this is that if I put myself in an immigrant shoes, like let's say I had to be an immigrant, like it's not above thinking that could be possible for us to have to do at some point where life would be better for our family somewhere else. If I put myself in those shoes, I would think exactly like that. I wouldn't expect them to let me in for free. I wouldn't expect them to just let me cross a border. Like, there's nowhere that an American can just go cross a border, not even Mexico. We can't just go cross a border and take their benefits, and you can't go to Canada, you can't go to Mexico. You can't do that. But if I did do that, or if I was even accepted legally and got citizenship, I would absolutely act like a guest.
You wouldn't just go wave your American flag in their country and start throwing bricks at their cops?
No. In fact, I would have fun adopting their culture. I would still be an American in my heart. I'd still have my roots. But I would enjoy, if I moved to Mexico, I would enjoy their culture. I would enjoy their food. I would enjoy their celebrations. You know, I would enjoy their things. But I love that was his attitude on this.
Yeah.
But did you vote for Obama and Biden?
I did, yeah.
How do you feel about their deportations? Being they actually deported more people than Donald Trump.
That's a good question, because I really wasn't paying attention at that point. So I can't really say. I just.
How fitting that two fucking clowns are sitting here during this protest and can't answer a simple question.
It's like, that's the norm, dude.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know what they're protesting.
That guy probably walks around like that. 90. That is like
that's not a costume.
That's a cuck ritual right there.
That's his identity. It's not a costume.
No.
Well, I think, going back to the last clip and even this clip, there's a culture in our society that like America owes people something, and that they can just treat America like garbage and throw trash on the ground. And like what Schwarzenegger said was that you have to give back. And there's a culture of like what you said, Chris, like when you go to another culture, go to another country, you adopt their culture and you're respectful. There's zero respect in any of these protests. I mean, that is, I think, what bothers me most. And that's, I think, one of the deepest issues with the people who are protesting is there's absolutely no respect. They go up to the cops and they go all the way to the edge of the line to try to provoke them. There's no respect for the officers.
Yeah.
We all understand that there is a small percentage of every profession that's a turd, but most everybody is trying to do the best they can. But when you go up to an officer and spit in their face, or you try to provoke them in other ways, like they're just humans too. They're going to get pissed off if you just keep provoking them. There's such a lack of respect, especially from the younger generation who believes in this kind of ideology, that I think that's what bothers me. And these people kind of, they're not younger generation people, but they're kind of the same thing. They don't really know what they're out there for. They don't really have a whole lot of respect. I mean, who walks out in public with a clown nose on? And I mean,
people that have liberal arts degrees.
Those people, they don't have respect for what they're protesting for or against. They're clowns. They are clowns. You're basically just telling us exactly what you are. Like, go out there with some dignity, protest, say your piece, and move on. Don't be irresponsible. And I think that goes back to what Schwarzenegger said. You owe people something, and our society just doesn't have that anymore. Like, we are telling our young people, especially, that you can act a fool and have no respect for anything, and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think those are great points, and I think that's why the family structure, the family unit is so important. Like when I see any of these types of things, any social movement, anything, I bring it back down to my family, and I relate it to my family. How would I handle my family? Like, I have young children, and respect obviously is something you have to instill in your children, and you have to make that correlation, and if I were to teach my daughter the way the left treats the public about protesting things you don't like, so if I were to tell my daughter, it's okay if you throw a brick through your school window, I'm going to call it a peaceful protest, and I'm going to support you acting that way. That's what they're doing. They're encouraging that behavior. It's a whole psychological thing, but I bring those things and I bring it back down to, would I allow that in my own home? Would I allow that in my own family? Would I treat my neighbor a certain way? Would I want this going on my block, much less my city, my state, my country? And I think it's important to make those relations, but I think respect is a major factor. But yeah, good points.
There's no video of President Trump sucking a ding dong. And so what if there was? That's a lot better than World War III, Owen. I never sucked any ding-dongs.
Again,
Ding-dongs are good.
Again, welcome to Graybo morning meetings.
Well, there's chocolate.
Yeah.
There's the chocolate outer, the chocolate inner.
It sure looks like Alex Jones has sucked on a few ding-dongs.
Yeah.
To me.
When you say that, are you referring to the cream filling? What are you referring to?
Dude, my favorite part of
that guy, he's like, ooh.
Is Owen Schroer's reaction. He just sit back.
He's like, no, don't cut to me. Don't cut to me.
Alex Jones is one of the most interesting public characters to me because he's gotten so much right. He's gotten way more right than all mainstream media combined, including Fox, including CNN, like all of them. but he's also kind of like the pro wrestling version of a media character. And he gets so animated and he makes these voices and like,
That's a good way to put it.
dude, he is the pro wrestler of mainstream media. However, like he gets so much right, you know, like I like listening because there's some things where I'm like, you know, you got to take everything with a grain of salt, no matter where it comes from. But
yeah,
you can't deny that he gets right.
Even ding dongs.
Including ding dongs, apparently.
Especially ding dongs.
British people be like, it's Tuesday, innit? British people watching Spider-Man be like, Peter Parker. British people be like, can I get a bowl of water? British people get mad and be like, are you fucking stupid? British people getting stabbed and be like, oi there, mate, bit rude to put that knife in me chest, innit?
So we were talking about British accents. Yeah. I knew I had that one in the hopper.
I can't take anybody seriously that talks like that. As a matter of fact, it drives me absolutely crazy.
Here's what's interesting to me is like, we use the same like alphabet as them, yet they don't. Our phonetics apparently don't match theirs at all, and they've been around a lot longer than us. So I'm not saying we got it right or they got it wrong.
We definitely got it right because we're American and we decide. However,
which is why the Middle East hates us.
No matter what.
Yeah. However, if you think about, so my guy George Washington, he had a British accent. Did he sound as uneducated and stupid as this? Probably not. Matter of fact, you probably, when he talked, you're probably like, dude, this guy's way too smart. I don't want to like debate this. Super smart, super proper English. This is not that.
Well, so you take a word like she said, like water, and they're like, water. It's like, all right, so if you phonetically pronounce water, where's the R? You know, because they've been doing it a lot longer than us. That would imply that they got it right.
That would imply that like over thousands of years, you change your language from what it once was. Because I think we're new at it, like especially here in the West.
Yeah,
we actually
we're
are
a couple
like
100 years.
Yeah, they're thousands of years.
However, listen to Ozzy Osbourne. Can't form a coherent sentence, but when he sings, you can hear everything. I can understand the lyrics of Black Sabbath
when he sings, but not when he talks. Although he's gotten strangely better, dude. I remember the Ozzy's show, that was the reality show.
Well, he's laid off the drugs.
You couldn't hear anything he said, but like now, like he's like seems fully coherent.
But if you think about it, when people sing, British people sing, they enunciate everything.
It's very true.
He's probably taking
indicating
ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and
indicating that America once again got it right. Boom! You're welcome.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem, and the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety laws. As president, I will make sure that we finally have the kind of border security that we need. That's step number one. Step number two is to take on employers. Right now, an employer has more of a chance of getting hit by lightning than be prosecuted for hiring an undocumented worker. That has to change. They have to be held accountable. Start shedding some light on the problem, and we can once again be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. That's what I intend to do as president of the United States.
That's my president right there.
Yeah. I'm just thinking how Trump would respond to this. You're gay. A lot of people are saying it. I'm not saying it. But a lot of people, patriotic people, very intelligent people, they're saying you're gay.
It's interesting to me how that was considered a liberal view, maybe even slightly left-wing view then. And now it's not even a right-wing view. It's a far-right extremist view to think how Obama thought then.
Well, we've had this conversation before, and I said, if you look at Bill Clinton's platform, his policies, and everything that he ran on, by today's standard, he would be considered a right-wing nut job. And that was like the poster boy of the left back then. But JFK, he was a Democrat. You would label, if he ran today and said the same things that he said then, you're like, this guy's a right-wing nut job.
Yeah, that's how far the left has gone. Just pretty much since that time. Probably since Trump got elected. They have gone so far left. It's crazy. Things that we wouldn't even consider are mainstream, like the trans agenda.
Well, and here's an interesting thought too, is that what's far left has always been far left. What's far right has always been far right. So those things haven't changed. It's society's perception of what those things are. And this is why I hate politics and I hate both parties. I feel like both parties have been two sides of the same coin in controlled opposition to each other, Fox versus CNN, but they've been coordinated to keep us divided while society just staggers left.
Mm-hmm.
What's far left hasn't changed. What's far right hasn't changed. Our perception is what's changed. Yeah. And they've shifted society left.
Yeah.
All the while claiming to be, I'm this party or that party, but everything has shifted left.
This is crazy.
Kash Patel, and I don't understand this story at all, but apparently the top 10 FBI's most wanted during the entire Biden era, I think 0 were arrested. 0 of the top 10. How many of them do you think that Kash Patel has already caught of the top 10 most wanted? All 10. What? What were they doing? It's the top 10.
How come no one's talking about this?
He caught all top 10 in what, just weeks?
How come no one's talking about it?
Are you telling me that wasn't possible before? Well, I don't even understand. How is this even remotely possible that Biden's administration got 0 and then Kash in a few weeks got all 10? What?
We could clean up a lot of messes if we wanted to. That's crazy. Think about that. Look it up. It's true. And have you even heard about it? Where is the story?
I have not heard that.
I didn't either.
So I dug into this a little bit because I hadn't heard of it either up until a few days ago. I don't think it's all 10. I don't think there's proof that there's all 10, but there's a lot of them. But I think the argument's the same. Why was the top 10 list 0 under the entire Biden administration? And let's say it's even half. The fact that Kash Patel can get half in a few weeks, get one.
It just tells us where their priorities were.
Yeah, I don't doubt it's hard, but get one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're busy prosecuting soccer moms at PTA meetings, it's hard to get the real criminals.
Well, and I think that's the argument, right? Is where are the priorities? If we believe that this is the greatest country in the world, like what are the things that we could accomplish if that's really where the focus was? And I think that's what we need to think about. Where is the focus and where is it not? It's interesting that it was not at the top 10 list.
Yeah.
Do you guys know who that guy is? Jamie Kennedy?
I think I've seen him before. Is he like an actor or something?
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen him before.
Yeah. I'm going to shout out Jamie Kennedy. I remember back when I was a teenager, the Jamie Kennedy experiment.
Jamie Kennedy.
Dude.
I knew
the Jamie Kennedy experiment that he did, it was so funny. Like it was real early in doing like reality TV type stuff or comedy type stuff. And he would do these social experiments. Like he went to this beach in Southern California where he handed out, Creed was really big at the time, the band Creed. So he littered the beach with just these Creed posters telling me, hey, free Creed concert. Thousands of people showed up for this Creed concert and they had this whole stage set up and stuff like that. And they drop the curtain and it's him dressed up as like this Willie Nelson looking dude. And he's like, thanks for coming, everybody. My name's Jeremiah Creed. We're going to Dude, he would do this stuff. He was like the first one to do like these videos where like he would pose as someone's boyfriend in front of their parents. And he had this alter ego called B-Rad. So he would be like this Eminem before there was an Eminem. Dude, it's so funny.
B-Rad, in reference to one of the greatest movies of all time, Malibu's Most Wanted.
That was him. Yeah. Yeah. Jamie Kennedy's hilarious. All right. Well, that's it, guys.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
By the way, Creed is awesome.
Creed?
Yeah.
Dude. All right.
They're awesome. I went and saw them in September, dude. They're like 50 years old and they still absolutely
I would watch them live.
Shred. They sound so much better now than they did 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were a force back in the day.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess
went a little off the rails. Went a little off the rails, but
yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Any final words? Good. Let's give this the most awkward ending we possibly can. we'll cut prior to
yeah, this episode's sponsored by Creed.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.